It closes out with an Unknown Road piano version. It's really long. It's beautiful, and it's kind of hard to beat this out for a number one spot. Let's see here. Full Circle is one that, okay, that's the one that was 6 and 5 for me. It was hovering up there at 6 and 5. And the more I listened to it, the more I realized that there's not anything. It's like it might be a perfect record. Fight Till You Die is a absolutely preposterous opening to a record.
So good live too. When they play that one live, that was so good.
Oh, I can only imagine. Date with Destiny is amazing melodic guitar, so good. Society, another top 10 Pennywise song in my opinion. I also thought that was on a different record.
I could have sworn that was on About Time.
I thought it was on Straight Ahead. Like if you just let me hear it and said, what record is this from? I was thinking Straight Ahead for some reason.
For you, for this list, I did not do any of my random listening. I did everything album-wise because I really had to discipline myself to know what was on what.
Oh, no, I went album by album, dude.
Yeah, that's what I did. I'm saying I had to, though.
Yeah.
Because, like, I really had to try to in my head, these songs were all in the wrong place from what I thought what was where. Especially
a lot of that was happening to me, too. A lot of that was happening to me, too. I will say, though, every time we do these kind of lists, I always have to do top 5. I mean, album by album, because I can't remember anything anyways. My memory is terrible. I put just banger after banger. I'm halfway through this album, and I think it's jumping from 5, possibly 6, all the way up to number 2. What in the world's going on right now? And then, I know, right? Let's see. And then a song called What If? I said that's a nice variation of sound for them. I really enjoyed it. And then I put on here, don't forget to bring up the fact that they talk about addiction a lot. I never realized how much they talk about addiction until this week. That's probably why I identify with this band so much and why they would go so far up the rankings for me, because that's a personal demon I fight, and it's a battle that I deal with almost every day of my life still, even though I'm a decade out of it. It's still something that I think about. I still make decisions based on it. I don't get surgeries that I need based on the fact that I don't want opiates in my life, things like that. So those are some personal songs for me. And if somebody that is out there that hasn't dealt with that, they might hear this, still like the song, but it may not just be the personal song that it is for me. You know what I'm saying? Mm. Also, I put Bro Him Live, Yes Please. And it closes out with an Unknown Road piano version. It's really long. It's beautiful, and it's kind of hard to beat this out for a number one spot.
Okay, yeah. But my ultimate choice ended up being Full Circle as well for the number 5 spot. That's ultimately. I wouldn't say I have a negative impression of Full Circle. That's not the impression, but it's another one too that I always kind of think I like and take for granted, but I always have trouble sort of mentioning stuff off of it because obviously we know Bro Him, this version of Bro Him, the second. It's a second debut album in a lot of ways for the band because it's their first album without Jason. And not only was Jason big as a bass player, he was also a really big songwriter along with Jim. So this was kind of them out on their own in a lot of ways without a member who, unfortunately took his own life in between these 2 albums. And that's why you have the new version of Bro Him, which is a tribute to Jason instead of the tribute to Jason's 3 Friends as the original version. I think both versions are valid, and people need to not forget about the first version because Jason also wrote that. And for those guys that he made that tribute to. Any more information on the 97 version? I have like a 4-minute video on my channel. Go ahead and watch that on the 25th anniversary. I didn't do a lot of research on it. I kind of just read some articles on it. And turns out like Jason's brothers and stuff are actually singing in that chorus that is going on this one. So there's a lot, like it's a very spiritual experience. And this is the version, quite frankly, they close their shows out with. So this is one of the, that alone put like 30 points into this. And then you said that, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I get teared up here in Bro Him quite frequently because I've got a lot of friends that have passed. And that's kind of song that, like, I don't see how anybody could hear that song and then not just automatically be like, okay, well, I'm a fan of that band now. Like, I don't see how you can hear that song because every kid that I knew in high school that liked any kind of heavy music liked Pennywise. Mm-hmm. So anyways, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like, I remember the new metal guys like Pennywise. Like that's,
what I'm saying?
We all kind of talked about them. And then Yeah, the bro hymn thing, absolutely. You go to a sporting event and every like college team has a version of bro hymn that their little band plays, because it's a very uniting song. Like that's what it does. But the other two, because you talked about a lot of this, is obviously Society, which again I could have sworn was on About Time. But maybe I got that weird. People make And then the opener, Fight Till You Die, another one that I thought was maybe on an earlier album, because it kind of sounds a little bit more like those early album ones. And I think it's just a perfect. Pennywise is the old. It's
a great album.
All their songs are basically anthems. Like pretty much everything they write is an anthem, and like Fight Till You Die is a perfect definition of that. So I'm glad. Like normally when I have these slots that have a lot of fat, I say on them.
Okay.
I'm happy with Full Circle being there. But the debut, I really liked the debut. I thought the debut was kind of underrated. I get the debut and Unknown Road a little mixed up. So maybe that for me is why I had trouble pulling it all out.
The debut to me is a perfect, gosh, it's going to sound so disrespectful. It's a perfect throwaway record. And I don't mean that as in like you just don't like it. I mean like it's a perfect get in there and figure out what you're doing record. So it's a good record. But it's a debut, and a lot of debuts suck, man. They're bad. They're poorly recorded. This one, no. When that album came out, you got what you got, and then you're like, oh, I'm gonna really like this band if they can continue to get better. And lo and behold, they were already better. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but I really like this self-titled record. But I feel like it's kind of out there on its own with the other record that has a different vocalist.
It's also the self-titled one is very busy. Like it sounds busy. And part of that is because production is not just knowing what to record, where and what sounds. It's also knowing how to play at the right times. And And like, that's sometimes you have an asshole producer to be like, well, no, stop drumming right there. Like, clear that up. And that debut albums usually don't have that because they are the songs that these guys have had since they were like 15,
Right. I will say that the debut album, the one thing it's got going for it is that it's one of their shorter records, man. This band puts out some long albums, man.
And it's funny because they have like that Rancid thing where none of their songs are really long except for like Bro Hymn and those ones, but they stuff them. Like there's nothing
they're like
left.
17 song records and stuff.
But you got, back then though, a lot of these bands we talk about were very 90s based, so you needed to move units. So you had, especially a band like this that's not going to get radio singles, you need to provide a lot of value for that. And that's I think that's part of why some of these bands did this.